Perfect. And now let me test one more thing to see if we can like automatically mute people coming in.
Yes.
Join experience.
So you want me to introduce you from your computer, right?
Probably. I think so we can be standing side by side.
Oh, I'm
But
not
either
gonna sit
works, I
next to you.
think.
I'm just gonna like sit here, right?
Either works.
I mean, I have
It's
something to do
it's
that is helpful. Right, because I can't.
I'm gonna be standing like
Right,
this
so
here.
it's like I should cut my video. Right,
Probably
so
better.
tall. And you should put your video on.
Is on. It's
Why don't you show self
hidden.
view? I think you should show yourself view.
Yeah. See myself.
It's very easy. It's not under settings. It's like go to the grid and
Right click maybe, or this one. Ha.
yeah, show self view. And then do you have it working? Is
Yeah,
it
it's
turn up the
showing.
volume?
My volumes. Full volume.
Okay.
And I'm unmuted.
Eli, can you say something so we can make sure we can hear?
Can you hear me now?
We
Yes,
can. Yeah. Can you hear us?
It's not your
Yes.
problem. We just wanted to make sure. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. Are you growing out a beard?
I've pretty much since COVID.
What? Oh, wait, maybe I said this last time we talked.
Maybe. Last time we talked was on the phone though, so you didn't see me. But
I was like,
I
you
pretty
know,
much had this for the last like 6 years. But
okay, but I've seen you in the last 6 years
What?
on video.
yeah, so I think last I saw you in person was pre-COVID. So
Okay. All right. I'm just processing the beard. Barb, thank you for the sumo orange. It was delicious.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Had my vitamin C today. Awesome.
Okay.
Yay.
Hi, Barb. Hi, Nick. Hi, Paulo.
Hi, Nick.
Hello, hello. Alexa says that this meeting is starting in 3 minutes. Well, I guess I can do this while we're.
Yeah,
Hey Eli, good to see you.
I can do this.
Oh, yeah, you can do that. Awesome.
It's
Okay,
a
we're.
trick taught to me by my wedding photographer.
Oh,
Because, yeah,
Yeah.
we're like not in the same picture.
oh, okay, good. Well, I'm not going to be standing next to Ben during this entire workshop. I thought I would introduce him and then he will take it away in 2 minutes, but then you can put the camera back up and you can stand up straight. Oh, that's good for your back.
I think it's just a little bit of time. I don't think it's going to make a
Right.
difference.
Okay, then I'm gonna go sit down over there. Awesome, awesome.
Still 2 minutes early.
Yeah, 2 minutes early. And Lyle, you're handling the chat, right?
I am handling the chat.
Awesome,
Hi,
awesome.
Lyle.
Hi.
Thanks for handling the chat.
It's good to have
Oh, yeah.
it's good to
I
have
used to do that when I was doing big classes in the COVID area. Having a full-time TA on just handling the chat while I was lecturing was great.
Yeah.
It is great. Actually, there are only a couple of things that I miss about teaching in the pandemic.
Hated it.
It's mostly awful, but there were a couple of things where it's like, oh, right, you could have a TA like managing the chat while you're.
And the students were so grateful to connect and meet and have someone to talk to. They were like very engaged.
Okay, another thing is like we got to meet like people's like families. Remember when they would just like be doing Zoom from their like kitchen? I thought that was
Oh,
awesome.
here's my dog. Here's my cat.
My
Dog.
cat would help. People
Yeah.
loved it when my cat helped.
Amazing. Awesome. Okay, good. All right. How do I see what time it is on your computer?
I'm seeing it.
159.
59. Cutie, is that an updated baby picture?
Reasonably updated. Yeah, it's
Reasonably
like
updated.
maybe around 3 weeks ago.
Awesome, awesome. All right, we have one more minute. Thanks for everybody for being here, by the way. We are a multi-university interdisciplinary group. And I would say feel free to leave your camera on since, many of you know each other, but also do whatever makes you comfortable. We are recording the call, and so I will send out to anybody who's on the calendar invite the Zoom link for the call so that you can forward it. Okay, it's 2 o'clock. So I'm just gonna very quickly introduce Ben. And I want to say that the reason why we're having this in the first place is that many of you asked if Ben could show your lab how he uses AI as a researcher. And so I will let Ben proceed. As I said in the email, this is less of a interactive workshop where we pause and then
How
you go
often they vacuum the ground?
try to do things.
Oh, I bet it's not very clean.
Everything's a
Sorry,
mess.
Katie, could you mute? Maybe
I
just
occasionally find dust.
Katie,
I'm just
mute.
like,
Katie.
that never done here.
Katie, mute.
Katie, can you mute yourself? Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And Angela, make sure you're recording. I didn't get a request for recording.
It is recorded.
It is recording.
Great.
It
Thanks.
is recording. So anyway, just the preface is that we will send this out, but it's less interactive in the sort of like, but Lyle is manning the chat, and so Lyle will interrupt Ben if he needs to. It's just that the size of the group makes it hard if everybody is, unmuted and interacting. But with that, I will say thank you to Ben. There's an optional 30-minute office hours following this. So that would be at 3 o'clock Eastern time. That's only if, graduate students or postdocs want to or anybody. And finally, Ben is pitching this to a third-year doctoral student, but, we're all here to learn. Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This is super exciting, and I'm really excited to share a little bit of the things I've been doing to play with Claude and to use it for research. So we have a lot of ground to cover. So let's get right into it. And I'm going to do something a little bit unconventional, where I'm going to start with the second thing in my flow here, just because I want to get some pots in the stove so we can then return to them. So here's what's the example that we're going to be carrying throughout the tutorial, what it will be. It's a question about how AI use affects meaning, right? So this comes from my own experience using AI. Many times I've used AI and I feel like it's a really meaningful experience. Sometimes I feel like it makes it really, really meaningless. So how do we get meaning in a world where AI can do our work for us, right? So I'm going to posit there's two things that sort of mediate this relationship, outcome, and process agency. We'll see more about this in a minute. I'm going to speed through this a little bit. And this is the setup, right? So I'm going to show participants this picture. I'm going to ask them to come up with a funny caption for this picture. And half of them are going to do it with AI assistance. Half of them are going to do it solo. Then I'm going to measure process agency, or this feeling like, do they feel like they're the ones actually doing the thing? Then I'm going to randomize them to receive positive feedback or negative feedback. Then I'm going to measure their outcome agency, how much they feel like things went well, and then meaning, right? So I'm positing that the combined effect of these two agencies is going to determine how meaningful the experience feels. Let's go now, head over to Claude. If I can get this to work. Okay, here. So I got here this Claude terminal, and I'm going to tell it to build the survey for me, right? So, hey Claude, please use the Qualtrics skill in plan mode and give me a survey. It's going to be a 2x2 design. You're going to use the image that I put in the folder you're in, and you're going to show that image to all of the participants. And you're also going to give people some items. They're in a text file in the folder. And what you're going to do is this. You're going to ask people to write a funny caption for the picture. Then you're going to randomize them to treatment and control. So if you're in the treatment condition, you're going to get an AI assistant. So I want you to send an API call to OpenAI to give people a recommendation of a funny joke for this picture. If you're in the solo condition, you're going to work on your own. Then, once people submit their jokes, I want you to ask them the process questions, then give them positive or negative feedback. You're going to randomize the feedback, and then measure the outcome agency and the meaning questions. And as always in a live demo, I'm experiencing some technical difficulties. Uh, all the things I just said didn't go through. So let me copy a version of this. And now I can speak. Okay. Yes, so make sure you use the API to send the request to OpenAI get the um, to get the joke recommendation. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this work here for a bit. So this is gonna take a bit. So I'm gonna set this pot on the stove, and now we can begin. Um, I'm sorry. Okay. So let's start now. Now that we have this pot on the stove, let's start with a little bit of some preliminaries of what Claude Code is and why we should use it and so on. So as you see, this is how it looks. You can also use it in the Claude application. So if you don't like the terminal, you can use it through the Claude app. For the tutorial, I'm going to use the terminal just because that is what I'm most used to. But the first question that you might be thinking is like, why bother doing all of this? There's definitely some setup costs, installation. You need to personalize your skills, familiarize yourself with the terminal, use GitHub, and so on. And the claim that I want to make, that I hope to convince you of in the next hour, is that all of this, maybe 4 or 8 hours of upfront cost, will be worth it because you might double your productivity, or maybe even more. So that's a promise for today. So why use Claude Code and not just Claude Chat? I'm going to give you 4 reasons. The first one is that Claude can read and write files directly on your computer. When you talk to Claude on the chat interface, you're often copying and pasting things back and forth. When you use Claude Code, Claude will just manipulate files for you. It's going to read whatever it needs to read. It's going to write whatever it needs to write. The second thing is that Claude will execute code for you, right? And this means that it will see any errors that appear from the code, and it can iterate and loop and like code execution. Are there any errors? Can we fix these errors? Can we run the code again? And it's going to loop until it gets the thing working. The third thing is that you can get multi-agent workflows, right? So the way Claude Code works is that if you give it a task that Claude can parallelize, that Claude agent will spawn sub-agents that are going to work in parallel for it, right? And each agent is going to have like a specialized task, and Claude will handle all of this for you. So that's going to make it more efficient. And then the final thing, and maybe the most important one, is that you have better sort of long-term memory when you're working with Claude Code. And that's going to mean less explaining, less time sort of like explaining to Claude what you wanted to do. It's all going to be in context. So let me say a little bit more about this idea of like long-term memory. And the way this is going to work is through Markdown files. Markdown files are great because they're readable both by people and by computers. I'm going to show you an example of one in a second. But here's the files that you're going to have. The first file is a Claude.md file that is general. It lives on your home address of your computer, and it's going to be appended to every single Claude Code conversation you have, right? So anything about what your projects are, what are you working on, what's your main, whatever, what are some things that you want to always do across projects. You can also have a Claude.md file specific to each project. So that will have context specific to that project that will be loaded at the top of every conversation. And maybe one of the coolest things you can do is like write skills, right? So these are going to be files that give Claude reusable sets of instructions for doing stuff. And I have a set of skills that I'm going to share with you. This is what a Markdown file looks like. Here on the left is what the computer sees. Here on the right is what you see, right? So they're very easy to edit, right? So how do you make a skill? You can write this file, but even easier, the way I usually do them is I just tell Claude, build me a skill that will do this and that. And then whenever something fails, I tell Claude, hey, this failed. Can you figure out why this failed? And can you update the skill so that it won't fail again? So you can iterate. right? And I'm going to give you this. I put this up in a GitHub repo. So all of the skills I use for research, all of the Claude.md files that I use, they're all going to be here. So you can use them, edit them, play with them, and so on.
I'm going to interrupt, Ben. There's several questions about clarifying Claude Code, the app, versus Claude Code, the terminal, VS versus VS Code. I think
Yeah.
just to give people a little bit on that choice would be helpful.
Yeah. So VS Code is let me open it. VS Code is an IDE, so an integrated development environment.
And don't take too long, just a quick higher
Yeah.
level.
So here is where people usually write code. And as you can see here, you can start Claude here, right? So you can talk to Claude in VS Code. I showed you can talk to Claude in the terminal. You can also talk to Claude in the app. They're all the same thing. They're different wrappers and interfaces under the same thing. So like if I talk to Claude in the terminal or in the app or wherever I do, it's going to have access to my skills, to my Claude.md files, everything else. So it's just a matter of taste and preference. I started using it in VS Code. Now I like using it in the terminal more. Okay. By the way, parenthesis, we can take a look at this for a second. It finished thinking about the plan I asked, and it's now asking me questions, right? So this is one of the cool things about the planning mode. It can ask me questions to clarify what it is that I want, right? So what does the treatment condition do, and when do they see the joke recommendation? I want people to have a button they can click that will give them an AI generated joke. I want the call to be live. Just do thumbs up or thumbs down, depending on whether the joke was funny or not. But don't make it dependent. Just randomize people to thumbs up or thumbs down. Should process agency be asked before the feedback list? Before, like I said, and we're going to submit the answers. Okay, so this is the Claude Code that was on the stove. We asked it to build a survey. It asks some clarifying questions, and now it's going to come up with a plan. We're going to come back to this plan in a minute. Let's go back to our slides here. So I'm going to share all these skills that I was talking about with you. Now, there's a couple of other things that I also use for sort of having memory systems, and these I just made up, right? So the first is a communication document. This is like an asynchronous communication channel with Claude. Angela and I, we have a running meeting document where every time we meet, we add a new entry that has the date, the newest stuff is in the top, and everything is there. So I use this document to give Claude feedback. I tell Claude, if you need to understand anything, ask me questions through here. So it can all persist then. Also a task manager, so I can see all of the tasks that have been running, what has been done and what is pending, and then a current state of the project, right? So whenever I log in then to work in the project after coming back, Claude will read this document that summarizes where we are in this project. Whenever I finish working for the day, I have a log off skill that will write to the current state document and sort of like update this to make sure Claude knows exactly where it is and can pick up from there next time I start. So for this, I'm going to focus on skills, but there's also other kinds of things you can work on with Claude. So you can create custom agents, you can use different MCP servers, different APIs. I'm going to skip most of this. I'm going to focus on skills for today. And then a final tip, as you saw me talk, don't type, right? And I'm using in this application Whisperflow. It's free. You get there's also like a $20 a month paid tier, and it's basically a better version of voice to text. The reason why I say you should talk, not type, is that you can probably speak at twice the speed that you can type, and the speed of speech is close to the speed of thought, right? So what this means is that you can give more detailed prompts. And it's not going to feel like more work, right? So let's go back now to Claude. Let's see how it's doing. Okay, so we came up with this plan.
Ben, by the way, is it easy to switch from dark mode to light mode? Somebody had asked that would be easier for them to read, but if it's not easy, don't worry about it. Like I don't think they do that.
I'll skip for now. Okay, so after I answered Claude's questions about how to create this survey, It's come up with a plan, right? So this has all of the plan, what the two factors in the survey, what the pictures are, everything it needs. If I had the time, of course, I would review this plan very carefully, like I would normally do. For the sake of time, I'm just going to say, uh, yes, use auto mode, go. Run this, write the survey for me. So now Claude is working on doing this survey, and we're getting some weird errors of Claude being unavailable. So maybe this is a good time to pause for some questions.
One question was asked was about using a MCP interface versus directly generating QSF files.
I'm using the MCP. It's not really an MCP. It's a Python package. There's a wrapper for the Qualtrics API. I found that that works better for me than trying to manipulate the QSF files directly. And it's also better in terms of leaving a persistent artifact of the creation of the survey, right? So this means there's a Python file now that is in charge of creating the survey. So then I can share this script that anybody can use and generate the survey for themselves as well. So I prefer APIs. So this is going to perhaps take a bit, and I'm going to use the magic of television at this point. I'm going to go to this version of Claude that I had pre-cooking, right? So this one, as you can see, it created the survey here. This is the survey file, did all of the edits and so on. It updated the communications file and gave me this survey ID. Right, so now let me ask it, can you open a Safari window with the survey so I can edit it? Let's see if this will work. Okay, it opened it. So here's the survey it made. Here's the picture, write a fun caption. Caption goes here. There's this JavaScript here that will read whether we're in treatment and control and do the thing that way. Here are the questions that I asked for, feedback being randomized, and then the other two types of questions. So I can preview this. And I have a working survey. I can get the AI help, it's thinking, and okay, let me just use this suggestion. Is this what they meant by bring your own entourage? I don't know if you find that funny, but AI does. Okay, so you can see that we got a survey. It's pretty cool, I think. Now, another cool thing you can do is that you can iterate, right? So for example, I could say, I think we need a consent screen, and also it would be good if you could bold the most important word in each of the items for better UX. So now it's just going to go and make these edits for me. Again, good time to pause for questions.
So people have had trouble about connecting Claude to the Qualtrics API. How do
Yeah.
you structure the context or request that's able to generate the survey you expect? For example, scales, including timing variables. For example, do you include model surveys for it to learn from and include that in your directory?
Yeah, no. So what I've done for Qualtrics is that I have a Python package that abstracts all of this away. So let me show this, and it's gonna be linked in the site as well. But I have this Python package, right? And the Claude skill is gonna use this package. This package is gonna send stuff through the API. And that creates the questions, edits the questions, creates the surveys, edits the surveys. And basically the way this is working is that there's sort of like specialized Python functions that are being called for each of these things. And that sort of like removes some of the brittleness of trying to work with Qualtrics directly. All right, so I've spent a couple of hours, of course, with Claude coding up this API wrapper, because there are some things about the API that are not well documented. So for example, I had a hard time getting NPS questions to work. But like 30 minutes of work with Claude, and then I can get the NPS questions working, right? So this is like a public package. If you use it and you figure out like, oh, the timing questions are not working for me, you can leave a request for a new feature, and I'll tell Claude to go implement it. So this is the way the interfacing with Qualtrics is working.
And so, Ben, I mostly have Claude build a detailed markdown file of all the questions and all the information, all the specifications, and then have it separately converted into PowerPoint or Qualtrics or whatever
Yeah.
format.
Yeah. Here I
Good,
didn't
bad.
show this very clearly, but I have in that folder that we're in, I have an MD file that has all of the items. And I think that's a great idea, right? Like you have then again persistent memory of the prompt you did. So like rather than say what I spoke out loud, do this survey for me and so on, you're gonna have a persistent sort of like lightweight description of the survey that then gets transformed, right? So it's done now. Let me reload the screen. And now we have a consent screen. Of course, usually I would ask what I want the consent screen to be. And this, we have the bolding as well, right? So like if I restart this here, now I can consent. IRB is not going to be mad at me. It has force request. Let me just test here. And I'm getting the bolding, right? One thing you can do, and I usually do this, is that you can queue requests. So I'm going to queue a bunch of requests, and then I'm going to leave because I want to show some other things. But I would say something like, for example, if this were my survey, I would say, never use matrix questions. And you should also update the Qualtrics skill to never use matrix questions. Just use the regular multiple choice questions. So change the survey, also edit the Qualtrics skill. Okay, so that is how I make Qualtrics surveys with Claude. Now I'm gonna sort of pivot to a different kind of infrastructure for making surveys. I'm not sure which one you like more, so that's why I'm showing both. But the idea here is that why do we need something else? The first thing is the iteration here with Claude is a little bit slower. So I need to go see restart the preview, reload the page for Qualtrics. So there's a little bit of extra friction there. Second thing that we're going to get from this is that it's going to be faster to iterate. That's the first thing, actually. It's going to be faster to iterate. The second thing is that it's all going to be code. The third thing is that we're going to be able to do more flexible things, right? So let's imagine that we're in this context of the jokes, and we want people to actually rate each other's jokes in real time, and we want to show the results of those ratings to the participant, right? So we're going to try that now. So here's how this is going to work. We're going to code up the survey. The survey will be posted to GitHub. And once that is posted to GitHub, it's pushed to Render. Render is a service that will run a web app for you, right? So it's just like the hosting for this web app that you build. Then when participants complete this survey, the GitHub hash is going to be saved with the data, right? So what this means is that for every row in my data, every row is going to be timestamped, and there's going to be a unique identifier that can bring me back to the exact point in time in my GitHub history of how the survey looked, right? So I can have like programmatically a link between the data and the exact version of the materials that my participants saw, right? And then once the data is collected, I can dump the raw data to the repository like Zenodo, for example, right? So there's a couple of advantages of this. The first thing is that everything is code. There's no UI, right? So the fact that everything is code, everything is just text, makes it so it's really good for version control and tracking. Second thing is that everything is timestamped, and that's going to be very useful for like tracking the provenance of the data. So you know when exactly was the version of the GitHub, I mean the version of the survey posted. You know when exactly did the participant complete it. You know exactly when was the raw data posted. So if you can see that there's like a 1 hour gap between the last participant and the posting of the raw data, you can have a bit of confidence that there was no funny business going around. And then what I said, right? The data and the materials are linked, which is great for reproducibility. So let's yes, please. It's asking me to fix the skill. Okay, so let's go now to this render thing, to this new way of making surveys. I'm gonna ask it to make a survey. Hey Claude, use plan mode and use the render survey skill to build a survey where people are gonna do a task. The task is that you're gonna show them the picture that I gave you in the folder. People are gonna write a caption for it, a funny caption, and you're gonna have them do it in one of two conditions. They're gonna do it alone or they're gonna do it with AI. If they do it with AI, give them a button they can press that are going to give the button's going to give them a joke recommendation, right? Then give them the process questionnaire, then have them rate each other's jokes, right? So load the most recent jokes that people have submitted in real time, show them to the participants side by side, the jokes that other people have written, and ask people to click on whatever caption they think is funnier. Once they rate 10 of those, you're going to give them real feedback based on those pairwise ratings. So tell them, for example, something like your caption was funnier, rated funnier than 50% of the captions it was compared against, or something like that. And just tell them thumbs up or thumbs down based on that real feedback. Then after you give them the feedback, give them the outcome items and the meaning items. Okay. So here's my prompt. And again, I'm going to use the magic of television to show you what's going to happen. So after this thinks for a while and figures out how to do this, it's going to come up with a plan. Again, I can check this plan, edit this plan, give feedback to this plan, and choose whether to run it or not. And then once you run it, you're going to get something like this. So it said, okay, the survey is live, it's here. I'm going to ask to open it. This worked. Create a bunch of files. And let's see how long it took. Doesn't say, but at least 7 minutes. Okay, let me show you what it came up with. It's here. Okay. Welcome, this is a short research demo. You'll write a caption, report a few reactions, blah, blah, blah. The welcome page is too wordy. Just make it a left to right flow with emojis and like a single word or two to say which of the, like what each stage is. And again, I can iterate in real time. And this will hot reload in a second, which I think is, yeah. Again, we can pause for questions while it's doing these edits.
One question going back and forth on is the $20 a month versus the $200 a month. I only use Claude an hour a day, and so I find the $20 a month is fine. I don't run out of tokens, but people are telling me, hey, if I'm doing this 5, 6, 7 hours a day, I'm massively running out of tokens. I need the $200 a month. Any feedback on that?
Yeah. I have a very straightforward suggestion. Buy the $20 one. If you're running into usage limits all the time, that's what was happening to me. And for like 2 or 3 days, maybe for a week, I was thinking, like I'll just wait until the tokens reset, whatever. So I'll just come back in 3 hours and do it. After 4 days, I was like, I'm impatient and I was getting antsy. So then I upped and then tried the $100 a month. And if that happens again, then try the $200 a month, right? If you know you're going to have a heavier workflow, then again, for that month, pay the 200. If you know that you're more working on a different kind of whatever, then don't, right? So I think, yeah, I'd recommend, I think for the $20 a month, you do run into usage limits pretty quickly. I do think it's worth it to pay the 100 or the $200 a month. My willingness to pay for this is pretty high. And right now we're having some trouble, I think, because we have many versions of this that are interfering with each other. So let me tell you that it's not reloading in time. This is because there's interference. You have another version of the survey running on the same port. So make sure that you're giving me the right port for this. This is only happening because I have like 4 of these running at the same time. It's gonna now figure out like why is it that it's showing me some other version? Because it said it should reload automatically. You should see this single horizontal row with the emojis. So it's basically killing all the processes and it's starting over.
Any comments about overflowing the context window?
It will overflow. And when it does, it's going to automatically compact the conversation. So it's going to write a summary and it's going to start from the summary onwards.
I also, by the way, when I'm doing a project, every time I'm at a natural stopping point, I say, Claude, summarize, store your memories, update the MD file.
Yeah. So you have also, this is a way to save tokens, right? You would type this clear and it's going to remove the history, wipe the sort of short-term memory in the conversation and start.
Oh, I hate
that. So if you want to save tokens, you should do that every time you're switching to something new, right? Okay, so it made the change I asked for here. I'm now in the solo condition. I'm gonna write a test. It's giving me 0 to 10 scales. Now I'm getting these pairs to rate, which is funnier. Our group chat is called Ice Ice Babies. I think that was fun. And so on, right? So people complete the pairwise ratings. I'm just gonna click through this. And now I'm getting feedback and I got a 10 out of 100, very minimal effort, right? And now I get the rest of the items. Cool thing about this is that you have more flexibility than you do with Qualtrics. So it's really easy to say time every page, track every keystroke. You can be pretty intensive with the amount of data you're collecting. So that's, I think, a nice pro of this. Okay, so any questions on data collection? We can pivot, I think, now to analyzing data, if there's no questions on creating surveys.
Hey, Ben.
Hey, Rob.
Oh, there's a quick question on 2 items. One is, how do you handle survey testing? Do you have any recommendations on that? Like, is that possible to automate to check all the conditions and that the surveys are working correctly? There's no mistakes or typos. The second part, I think, was a question on just security. Like, how do you make sure that everything is kind of the data is secure if you're capturing PII, and also that everything is backed up correctly? Do you have processes for these?
Yeah, so on the last question on data and data security, this saves the data to a Mongo database. That is what sort of like every website that you use is using. That's the kind of thing that they're using. It's very secure in the sense that you need to be in the specific IP address to be able to read and or write to that database. So the data security is the same as you would find in any sort of enterprise product. So that in terms of like data leaking and so on. In terms of backing it up, same thing. You can back up the data as soon as you finish data collection. You can say dump the database, post it to a permanent repository like Zenodo, or post it to my box folder or whatever you want keep like a raw record of your data. The first question was about testing and like sort of like piloting and checking. And that I think is somewhere where this really, really shines. Because the first thing you can do is ask for an audit, right? So you can tell Claude, and you can have a skill that will do this. I want you to look at everything, make sure every condition runs, make sure that all of the code is secure, make sure that you're not exposing any secrets. And it's going to run that audit. And whenever I run these audits, I always find something, right? So like uh, this is not error-free all the time, but it's great at catching its own errors. Um, and the fact that you can sort of iterate in the survey in this way, and you have the tracking with GitHub that's going to tell you exactly what is the version of the survey that people are seeing, it's great for piloting, right? So it's really, really agile. What I've been doing with this project is that I've run like 10 versions of this survey, and it's very, very easy to run a version. I analyze the data, I learn something, I have a follow-up question. I go to Claude and I say, update the survey in this and that way. And the link doesn't change, right? I ask it to add a new code to the GitHub so that I can track which is which. So that's going to be now version 2 of the survey, and that will be linked with the data. And I would just email Owen and say, can you add 100 people to this? And you can like iterate very, very quickly. So like in a week, you can run 8 surveys, eight versions of the survey, right? It's like super, super fast. Okay, so let's look at a little bit of data analysis. And what I'm gonna sort of like advocate for in terms of data analysis is to use QMD files or anything that is reproducible. I think one of the greatest advantages of being able to use Claude for coding is that you can do it such that every number here is never written by hand. All of the numbers come from code, right? So here, Claude wrote this code, D equals what the D equals, right? So you're never going to have a typo on this 0.32. This also means no copy paste errors. It also means that you have immediate reproducibility. So if you give someone your code and data, they can press click and recreate your paper. Any changes upstream will move downstream automatically. So if you, decide to add an exclusion in your cleaning script, or you figure out something that you had made a mistake, you don't need to rewrite the whole paper, right? You just press the play button and the numbers will update automatically. And then the final thing that is nice about this is that it's audible and editable, right? So you have this file artifact that is a permanent artifact, and you can look at it, right? You can read every line of this file. You can run every line of this file line by line. And that makes it so that you can sort of like really make sure there's no mistakes, as opposed to, say, for example, uploading a data file to the chat interface and getting results out. Okay, so let's do some analysis. Okay, here's the analysis empty one, and I'm gonna ask for some analyses. Okay, let's start with cleaning, actually. It should be cleaning, not analyzing. Okay, hey Claude, I want you to please download the raw data from the Mongo database and take that raw data as input, and as output, I want a clean data set, a CSV file that has 1 row per person, good column names, and everything inside of the every cell has something that makes sense. So there's no coding errors. Factor variables should be factor variables, and so on. So do this all in a QMD file so that I will have reproducibility in this. Start the QMD file with a codebook that explains what the variables are. Do the same thing for the composite variables, include the alphas there. And yeah, so give me from the raw data, the clean encrypt that generates this QMD file and the clean data. So a little bit more verbose than it should have been. Any questions while this runs?
No, mostly to emphasize to people that this is incredibly fast and seems difficult. Ask Claude for questions. It's a great tutor. It'll help you. That every time you get stuck and don't know what to do, ask it. It doesn't always think to tell you, but it's very
Yep.
good at helping.
Yeah. So like one of the main things I'm studying is like whether AI will de-skill us all and we're going to be all stupid because AI does everything for us. I think one way of using AI that sort of should calm this de-skilling concerns is that not only do you tell Claude go do things the way you would if you were like a PhD advisor telling your PhD student to go run some studies, but also you can think of it as uh, uh, someone who can teach you, right? So you can say like, and think with, right? So a lot of the times I'm asking Claude, why do you think this is? And Claude will come up with some explanations, and I'm going to fight back, and I'm going to say, this explanation doesn't make sense. Here's what I think. And Claude will say, no, what you said doesn't make sense. So we're like thinking with Claude through conversation is, I think, a really, really cool use case. And also like learning new techniques, right? So I said, I have, for example, this pairwise data. Um, the way I analyzed it, I wouldn't have known this before. I asked Claude, is there a way I can get some sort of like IRT sort of like skill parameter for every joke? And it said, yeah, you should run the Bradley-Terry model, which is like the generalization of the ELO score to uh, being able to look at all of the data you have, all of the contests you have, right? So I asked it to explain what the model is, what it's doing, how it's different from this, how it's different from that, and you can really use it to learn. Um, so right now, this is like writing a script to download the raw data. It's checking whether it has all of the R packages it needs, and so on. Uh, any other questions while this runs?
You have time check, you have 19 minutes.
Okay. Given that we have only 19 minutes left, we're going to rely on the magic of television. So it succeeded. Everything is in place. I have a download data script, a clean data QMD file, a clean file, and the rendered QMD file. So I can say, can you open the HTML of the cleaning script? And again, you would have, this is what it did. So here's a code book, variable definitions, what all of the variables are. So I have like whether people left the tab they were supposed to be in, what are the ELO scores of their jokes, and so on. So, and all of the code is here, right? So you can audit the code, make sure that everything makes sense. For example, the duration was captured in milliseconds. Now it's in seconds. Merging, here's my alphas, and so on, right? So let's assume that this was a good data cleaning experience. Let's go run some analyses. Hey, Claude, can you show me whether let's talk through this a bit. Were there any differences between condition and the study variables? Did people write funnier jokes with AI? Did they think that the task was less or more meaningful? What happened? So oftentimes I'll like just ask questions of the data this way and try to get a sense of what's going on with the data before doing any writing and before writing like a permanent script, right? And this helps because at least for me, it was very, very hard to be organized when I wrote my uh, code files, where everything that I was doing for exploration would inevitably get sort of merged together with the final analysis code for the paper. So here I can actually just do this without necessarily saving anything. If I need it again, I can always recreate it, right? So here's the results. People were modestly more funny when they used the AI, the D of 0.35 and the ELO scores and so on. Meaning lower for AI directionally, but not significant. Makes sense. This is a small pilot. Process agency has a big effect and so on. Keystrokes task duration are lower with AI, but not significant, and so on. So let's assume that I'm happy with my understanding of the data. and I'm going to ask it now to, yes, please. Can you write this up? Give me a draft of the methods and results as a QMD file, and make sure that you make all of the numbers be generated from code. Don't hard code any of the numbers. And yeah, write it clearly. Tell me whatever I need to know about the sample and whatever I need to understand the results, and write the results. And again, this is probably going to take a minute. So I can again pause for questions while this runs.
So in general, how much can you let Claude do things like, can you let it make up the survey for you? Can it design the survey logic? How far do you trust it to outsource that?
I outsource everything, trust nothing. Uh, that's my mantra, right? So I think all of the things that I've asked for now are sort of reasonably smaller tasks.
But
At
you
times,
specified all of the questions in the detail. You didn't tell it, hey,
yeah,
make up a survey for me.
yeah, but I could have, and at times I've done like, like help me come up with items for this, and this is what I want the items to get at. Or here's a 2000 open-ended responses to how people use AI. Help me analyze this to come up with positive AI use cases. And now, sort of in all of this data that the people said how they used AI in ways that are good for them, sort of like give me what the categories are, make one item for each. And then I get like a 12-item measure, all done by AI, on sort of like uses of AI that are using AI as a coach rather than as a crutch, right? And that was something that I told AI go do. I basically just gave it a big data set with open-ended data. I gave it, here's what I want you to do, here's how you should do it. And then I went and had dinner or something, and it worked for like 40 minutes, right? So like for big tasks like that, like Claude can work independently for scary amounts of time. It's pretty scary. So it's now writing this QMD results file. And this is going to look just like this one, but it's going to have the results. Again, the code will be there, so it's auditable and editable. I can post things to GitHub as I'm going, so the whole history of how the files are evolving can be saved, and it rendered cleanly. It's closing the task. It's rendered, and I'm going to ask for the open the HTML. I don't know why it tells me to open it. Claude should open it for me. So here's what I got. We analyzed data from 182 participants, recruited from 2 online panels, and so on. This was because Prolific wouldn't take my money, so I had to shift to Connect while I was doing this. Here's an overview of the results. Here's all of the stats in line. And I feel like this really needs a figure. Can you make a pretty figure for these results? So you can just iterate with this. Same thing for the writing, right? So like if I had the time, I would go through this very, very slowly, and I would be like, AI-assisted captions were judged modestly funnier than solo captions, but the signal varied across scoring methods. Like this is a horrible topic sentence, right? So I'm going to say that this is a horrible topic sentence. You should make sure that all the topic sentence in the text are stronger. You should always speak about people, not statistics, right? So here you're describing the finding in terms of, actually, it's a little bit, it's in terms of the captions, not the statistics, but just describe the people, whatever it is. I also have a skill for this. So like it's called research writing. So if I just say do research writing, that has a skill that has a bunch of sort of like recommendations for what I want my writing to be like. So this is a skill that says do short sentences, strong topic sentences, active voice, and so on. So I just asked it to use that skill. And now we have a picture. I could say, I don't want this picture, I want a bar chart or whatever. But I'm gonna pause the editing of the results for now, just so that we can look at actually I'm gonna stop here. We have 10 minutes for questions. So let me go back to one final thing that I want to run here. Um, I'm not going to show this, but I'm going to say it, right? I can tell Claude, hey, Claude, use the GWS skill to send the results with the pictures and the tables and everything you have in here to a Google Doc, so that I can share it with my collaborators. That's one thing I would do, and then this would be a Google Doc now. Another thing I could do is, hey, Claude, please use the LaTeX workflow so that you make this into a LaTeX document, and make sure that the QMD file now saves all of the relevant numbers into a file, a LaTeX file that has all of the macros, so that then the LaTeX document can have reproducible numbers in them. So if I did that, I would get, let's see if this will work. I think I have the older ones from here. Right. So I can share this. I can work on this with collaborators. The numbers here are created by these macros, and this is basically like a version of Google Docs. And same thing for docs. Let's see if I asked for it for a Google Doc before, not that one. So let's see if I can show this. Should be my personal one. Yeah, so here's the draft, right? So this was Claude generated from the QMD file. Last thing I'm going to do is I have a skill, run the pipeline audit skill, just make sure that all of the numbers are generated by code, make sure that all of the narration of the results agrees with the actual numbers that are there, make sure that you don't have any code that you're not using, and all of the good things that are in the audit pipeline. So this will run the pipeline audit skill that, again, does a bunch of things to make sure that there's no errors in the code, that makes sure that all of the narrative results match the statistics, and so on. So I'm gonna stop here with the demo, but let me sort of like see if I could convince you. What did we achieve in an hour? And yeah, I'll recognize that in real life, I would take this a little bit more slower, probably way more slower, just to make sure that everything is correct. But we designed a 2x2 study in Qualtrics. We built and deployed a custom web app with a live peer rating feedback. We cleaned and analyzed data in a reproducible way. We drafted methods and results in a reproducible document, and we audited the whole pipeline for quality. This is all we could do in a little bit over an hour, really, if we had actually waited for Claude to be done. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much, and I'll stick around for questions and office hours.
So one question, Ben, say a little bit about how you verify. So you've really sort of skipped over two things. One is the fact that there's lots of iteration to get things to work. And the second is, how do you check? Do you look at the output? Do you look at the code? Give us a little feel for that critical piece.
Yeah. The first thing I look at is the output. Before looking at code, I look at the output, because you're gonna figure out that Claude says things that doesn't make sense, right? So in one of the runs, for example, it gave me a effective condition and presented it as a real result, but the variable was a pre-assignment variable, right? So I'm like, hey, Claude, this doesn't make sense. Like, this was a pre-assignment variable. You shouldn't look at treatment effects on this. A lot of the times it's going to show you, and you're going to see that whatever, like the model that it ran, and you can see it on the table that it generates. This model doesn't make sense. You should include controls for this or that, or you should run the model in some other way. So there's a lot really you can figure out without needing to look at code. I think before you are confident in the results, and definitely before you submit your paper, you should really, really, really go to your cleaning file, go to your analysis file, and run it line by line and see how everything is happening. Like the step by step, I think is something that I wouldn't be comfortable submitting a paper without actually doing that. But I am comfortable running a pilot and never looking at the code that was generated and just never looking at the code that was generated and just trust whatever it told me. Because it's pretty good. Like I've done an exercise where I look at previous code bases of work that I've done, and I've ran these like audits, and it finds errors that I didn't find when I wrote the code originally. So it's pretty good. So here's the results of the audit, right? So statistical correctness, it matches the claim and methods, the unequal variance assumption for the t-test and whatever, and so on, right? So this is also a good way for checking. Like the automated checking, I think is pretty good. But I would definitely look at the code line by line before shipping something for real.
Great. I think we hit most of the questions. Any questions that we've missed? And we will share the recording with people
The recording,
afterwards.
I'll also share. I put everything up.
And I think as someone asked, given the transcript and the skills, Claude can help walk you through things.
Correct. Exactly. And all the skills are here. So this has the slides, everything is here.
That in the same Google Doc with the agenda.
Yeah.
So if you can find your calendar invite, then
you can find everything.
Okay, good. Maybe this is a good time just to say, like, if maybe we'll start office hours, right? So like, yeah, so anybody who wants to leave, Ben, this is awesome. It really is. I'm so glad that you did this. And then Ben will start office hours now, but for those of you who are leaving, thanks for all the little hands.
Yeah, thanks for
Little
joining.
yellow hands. Okay, great.
Hope this was useful.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.
Awesome.
Ben, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Hey, it's Diego.
Hey, Diego.
Hey, bud. I was wondering, do you have a sense of how editors, reviewers, and like colleagues think about running entire projects through AI, like with AI, like from survey creation to data analysis and paper writing?
Yeah. I don't know what the reception of this is, and some journals are requiring AI disclosures, right? So if I had to write an AI disclosure for this, I would have to say, like, yeah, the Qualtrics survey was generated via Claude Code, and I made sure to I did edits on top of the Claude first draft, and I verified that everything works as it should. The code was written in collaboration with Claude. The paper was written in collaboration with Claude, but all of the ideas, all of the claims are my own, right? And I think like one real danger of this is like it's so good and fast, so fluent that you have to really make sure that you're not giving away your thoughts, right? You should never like delegate the thinking, but you should delegate the doing. The way I think of this is like you are now an associate professor and have like 4 PhD students that are really good. How would you feel about publishing a paper as an associate professor where most of the work was done by your PhD students? Right? I think it's the same internal feeling. Externally, how will reviewers and journals look at this? I'm not so sure. I don't
Yeah,
think it should be. I think if they're aversive to it, I think this is algorithm aversion. I don't think it is warranted.
right. Yeah, and because I think too about like you said, you treat it as a collaborator, right? And you could talk to it and say, what are things that I'm missing? What are other things that
Exactly.
I could think about this data, right? And so in a way, you have your own ideas, but then you're presented with different ideas. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that other kind of counterpoint, and so it could shape it beyond just sort of a hey, I wish I had a computer science engineer who could like code the survey and
Exactly.
do data analysis pipeline kind of work for me. So I think there's like a combination, but yeah, but super cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for showing.
It's like the same idea, right? Yeah, for sure. was going to say something about this and I forgot what I was going to say. So if it comes back, I'll say it.
Ben, I have a question. I'm
Yeah,
curious, there's like big knowledge gaps between people on like how to use AI, right? So what is your recommendation for how to like close that knowledge gap, or how did you do it? Like, are there resources that you subscribe to? Um, is it just learning through Claude, as what was suggested in the chat? Uh,
yeah,
do you talk to people who are really good at using it and get their recommendations? Because I find the speed that this is changing, like
yeah,
it's just so fast. So I'm curious how you stay up to date.
yeah. I get a bunch of sort of like recommendations, some like videos from people on YouTube saying like, here's how I use Claude Code to X, Y, and Z. And you can get some um like like some tips that way. But I think that the main thing is whenever you figure out, oh, this if I could do this, this would be cool. Just ask Claude to build it for you, and Claude will probably build it for you. I was like flabbergasted about this like Qualtrics skill because I was like, I hate Qualtrics with a passion, and I hate like having to go through it and click all of the things. Um, so I was like, what if there was a way to have Claude do it? So I just asked, does Qualtrics have an API? And Claude is like, yes, here's the link. I go in the link, I take a look. Oh, here's the kinds of things that it can do. It seems like it can do almost everything. And can you write a package so that you can have a Python file that will create a survey for you? And then it did, and I was like, can you like do this? Can you do that? And I was like testing, trying to break it. Um, and like the core of the package was like pretty much done by Claude, um, like in an hour. And then there was like a bunch of stuff that were like a little bit trickier to get working. So like NPS questions was one thing of that, was one of those. Display logic was breaking because like the logic, like the Boolean conditions were like misformatted, and I had to like go to the page and inspect and everything, and like, but I would say like you just anything that you need, just ask Claude in terms of like using Claude. Claude knows best how to use Claude. Um, and like I built, for example, an MCP server for my task manager. So I can run a skill saying like, hey, Claude, what's on my plate? And it's going to pull data from my uh, email, from my calendar, from my task manager. I can say, hey, this task that you're telling me I have to do, I actually already did it. So you should delete it from my task manager. And there's this other thing that I really need to do. So prioritize that. So it's like I have also like Claude can also be like an executive assistant. I was like, hey, Claude, I'm applying for jobs. I have a skill now that will uh, go online and search for all of the potential jobs and opportunities that might be good for me, like all the things I could apply for, um, and so on. So like the, you just try stuff, and most stuff works. It's scary. Um, and then the other thing I would say, this is what I was going to say right after this question, is that uh, I do think that the sort of like returns to expertise are higher now rather than lower. I feel like, and I see it with our students in Tech and the Good Life, right? Like um, the fact that I know my stats, that I know my coding, that I know that so like I was doing all this stuff before having AI do it for me, uh, is something that's really, really needed for me to figure out how to do it with AI, right? So like if I wasn't able to run a render survey before, I wouldn't have known that you need a database and that the database will have IP protection or whatever, right? Like, so like you sort of like need some knowledge to get to get the ball rolling.
Just quick follow-up to like one approach is also using other LLMs to check your work on Claude, like you use Codex to check. And what is your view on the investment of time it would take to be good, not only, on like multiple LLM platforms, because Claude and Codex have kind of different, maybe
Yeah.
different ways of skills, like you have to program that out as well. Like, do you just kind of focus on one, or do you have any suggestions for how to think
Yeah.
about
I think there are some benefits to combining. So I remember one time I was trying to get something to work and it wouldn't work with Claude, and I just like opened the Codex thing on the side and I was like, "Hey, Codex, can you try this because Claude can get it?" And then Codex did it at the first attempt. Um, that said, for the most part, I don't think you get a whole lot from sort of like having ChatGPT check Claude and Claude check ChatGPT and use Gemini, like like all the really frontier, really good models um, are probably very, very close to each other in capabilities and whatnot. In terms of like the writing skill and the writing quality and the coding as well, you're going to specify that through your skills, right? So however you want it to write, you can make sure that it writes that way. Um, so that said, um, even if the returns aren't huge, if you're using Claude Code, it's not very different to also use Codex, right? Like, let's see if this is still open. So I could do something like this very, very easily. Okay, so whatever this is, I can ask Claude something here. It doesn't work. I can ask Codex something here as well. And it's like the same interface. It's the same thing. I'm not sharing anything, am I? This is what I meant to share. So I'm on this code base. I can just ask Claude something here, ask Codex something here, right? So it's not really like if you have it set up, the additional effort to be able to also talk to the other AI model is like not a lot more effort. And to Paolo's question about Qualtrics, so I'll just read the question. So utilities keep Qualtrics, right? By going through an MCP server, do you test it as a user, or do you not do the testing? So yeah, I totally skip the Qualtrics, although I can modify and edit the survey that Claude made for me, right? So it's not like Claude makes it and then I can't touch it. Um, I can do any modifications I want. I can also ask Claude to do any modifications I want. So it's the same as if we have two people that have a shared survey. Um, it's not really going through an MCP, but through an API. The difference, it's the same difference, right? Like it's same process. It doesn't really matter. Um, and I do test everything just to make sure that it works. I look at not just test it in preview mode, but also look at the edit page of the Qualtrics, just so I can see that like the preview logic makes sense, that all of the whatever JavaScript was added makes sense to me, that assignment to conditions are there and so on.
So you still check the survey flow.
I check everything, yeah. Survey flow, contents of the questions and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
MD files the same across Claude and Codex. Mostly, yeah. You might need to save them in different places or call the files different things. But it's the same system, right? So like all of these have sort of like markdown files that will specify skills, will specify agents, will specify sort of like a broad personality or memory, like the Claude.md file. There's a codex equivalent of that as well. Um, the only difference might be the names and where they're saved.
Anything else? Are you done?
Any other questions?
I have so many questions, Ben, but
Keep going. We have 20 minutes. Oh no, we do have 20 minutes. I want to hear all your questions because I'm
okay,
like,
but I want to make space for other people, so I'm gonna mute myself.
Rob, go ahead.
I realize I'm muted though.
No, I
Yeah.
unmuted to say I just want to listen to all of Rob's questions. I could just listen to you go on for hours.
I'm wondering how you structure basically multiple agents. Do you have one core conversation and then ask it to spawn additional agents, or do you just have 5 terminals in your window, each
Yeah.
doing kind of multiple tasks?
Yeah. So those two things are look the same, they're not the same. So one thing is um, sort of like the multi-agent workflow that Claude does itself, right? So you can create your agents and they're going to have like different personalities, different skills, different abilities to call different tools, for example. Like, for example, you can make it so that one agent can only read files but not write files or whatever, right? So that is one sort of version of this like idea of like multi-agentic workflow, and that is fully sort of like managed by Claude, right? You can create like you can specify the little versions of Claude that Claude can then spawn for you. Um, but usually like all of that is abstracted away. Like I don't really use it. I think you could say do this or do that. But for example, when I'm asking Claude to work on reading qualitative data and making sense of it, then Claude will be like, oh, I have to read. It will just figure it out itself. It's gonna say, oh, I need to read whatever, 1,000 of these responses. Let me spawn 20 agents to run this in parallel. And it just does it, right? A similar thing is to have multiple terminal windows open in the same folder. And there's good reasons why you would want to do that, because then you can also run stuff at the same time. Um, as long as the stuff you're running in the two terminal windows is not interfering with each other, then it's a good idea to do it, right? Oftentimes, the workflow is so fast um, that, like, in the time I'm reviewing Claude's output, Claude can sort of fix it. So at times I'm going to have, like, say, the QMD on the right and the terminal on the left, and I'm reading the QMD, and I'm sort of queuing messages, right? So, like, in the introduction, you said this, but this doesn't make sense. You should change the argument to that or whatever. Or this sentence needs to be better. I don't know how, just make it better. Uh, by the time I get to the end of the document, there's already a bunch of new changes that I need to look at. So oftentimes I don't need to do this sort of like parallel processing, but you definitely can. I would just say be mindful of interference. And if you think there might be interference, then you can use GitHub work trees. So that basically makes it there's two branches. They will never interfere with each other. Once they're done, you can merge them, right? You can also have Claude then on your phone once you're linked to GitHub. So again, then if you have a bunch of like tasks that can happen separately, by the time I go to bed, I'll open my phone. I'll be like, okay, Claude, do this, and then I'll open a new session of Claude, do that, and then the next day I'll just see all of the new branches that are in my GitHub uh, work tree, and then you can see what you can merge to the main branch. So that in terms of like multi-agent workflows. For the most part, I think, like you, I don't know how much of the hassle is worth, how much of the juice is worth the squeeze or whatever. Nick?
Yeah, so thank you so much. This is amazing. Do you have any recommendations for like where to start? Like, so if we're kind of way down on the learning curve and want to start moving up. Where would you start in terms of starting to get going on this stuff?
I think download the Claude app. If you don't want to use the terminal, which I think there's really no reason to use it. I just like started that way and I got used to it. But let me show you what works on the thing. So like I would say do this. I'm here. So you open the Claude app and this is Claude chat. So here's where I'm like I was talking to Claude to help me think through like what are the benefits of this? What should I say? But here you have Claude Code, right? So you should put some data on a folder, right? And you should start a new session, and then here you just run it locally, and you're going to open a folder here, and you're going to click on that folder, whatever it is, right? So whatever, I have my research here. Let's say, I don't know, let's do COVID return. So I'm here and just ask for stuff, right? Like analyze this data, and you're going to get data. You're going to get like conversation out of it. Right? And then you can ask it to write files. So that's how I would start. Just put some data in a folder, take Claude to that folder, probably through this interface, which is a little bit perhaps like a more more familiar, and just ask for things.
Cool. Thanks.
Another thing, like I also like I totally newbie. What I did is like small project, like cleaning up an old email account or stuff. So I needed to learn about Google API or stuff like that. So little projects that maybe, during the
Yeah.
weekend. And that helped me. Like I didn't know, like up to a month ago, I didn't even know what an API was. I mean, not really. And but that forced me, and it's just low hanging fruit, something that I
Yeah.
just wanted to do to get more organized. So I feel this approach, at least I was able to follow not able to do what he does, but at least I sort of like understand what he was doing. So I think that building skills like that, I think that might be helpful. I don't know. This might, like again,
Yeah.
starting from like zero.
I yeah, I agree. Uh like you don't need to just use it for your research. Right? It's like if there's any like problem in your life that could be made better, just ask Claude to build you something that will fix stuff. Right? So like and yeah, like having these like little personal projects is also a great way to learn. I've created a bunch of websites, uh, like to just play around with it. And it can, yeah, that's also pretty pedagogic, I think.
Then I have another question for you because you mentioned the different use cases of AI, and
Oh,
one of them was a thought partner, right?
yeah,
And so, but you also made statements such as like, "Oh, do the thinking yourself and then ask AI to do
yeah.
it." I'm just curious if you've experimented with like, I have a list of all my research questions or interesting thoughts, right? Like, could you queue up Claude when you're sleeping to just go through that file. Like here are the 10 questions I'm interested in. I want you to vary the temperature. I want you to like generate 100 different responses to this research question, and then select from those 100 responses what you think is the best research question. Like, and then have that do it when you're sleeping. And so you're basically just, throwing money for thinking. Like, is that something that you've tried before? Like, do you think it's within the
Like running
realm of,
different, like adding research ideas to a list of research ideas or like rewriting ideas in a different way? Do you mean like,
I mean, thinking like having AI tackle some of the very beginning stages of the
oh yeah,
research process.
for
So
sure.
like thinking about what the interesting questions are, and then also thinking about, how you would answer those questions,
Yeah.
and designing those experiments, etc.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the early stuff is definitely like very useful. And I've done that. I've done like, here's a list of questions. What else do you think? Or based on what you know about me, what do you think I should be, uh, what other questions I should be studying, right? Uh, and they're not necessarily going to be good. It's hard to tell, right? Like maybe they are really good. I think there's some research that shows that like the AI generated questions are perceived to be more interesting or whatever. Um, so I think it's definitely worth playing with, and I've tried that. I don't think any of the work I'm doing right now was like an AI generated idea. Uh, but I mean, I wouldn't say that could never happen, right? I think that could definitely happen, and I can't say for sure whether like some of these conversations about like the earlier stages about like what I think about stuff have shaped like downstream, like what I did end up doing or how did I end up running one thing or the other. Um, so I wouldn't say like, oh, you should only do it for like, like the more downstream thing. Make sure I would say totally go crazy. Um, I would say two things though. Um, Come back to it a couple of days later and see what you think. So one time I was like, like I couldn't sleep, so I was like on the phone and I was like, "Hey Claude, I'm thinking about this, and maybe I should like this could be an interesting research idea." And like we started going through it, and I was like, an hour later, I was like, "I'm gonna win the Nobel Prize." like I got a little bit into the AI psychosis, like it really happens. Um, and then next day or whatever, I like read what the idea was. I was like, that doesn't make sense to me now. So that's like that might happen, of course, but I don't think it's wasted time unless you do really do have more urgent things to do. But if it's 3 a.m. and you can't sleep, it's great to have those conversations.
Um, really easy questions. One is, can you do all of this with ChatGPT? Because right now that's what I've been using. I need to switch over to Claude, but I was told
Yeah.
by pen people that whatever. And then the other thing is for the voice to text, can you do that with the app, or do you need to use Terminal for that?
The Yeah, so the first question, everything that I showed now, I think you can definitely do with ChatGPT. It just would be Codex rather than Claude Code. And I think there's like you can run Codex on VS Code, you can run Codex on the terminal as well. So it would be like pretty much an identical workflow, I think. Um, so that's one question. The question on voice to text, that you can use everywhere. So I dictate my emails. When I've been yeah, like you can read a document, and if you want to like give comments on the document, like like leave yeah, comments in Word
Yeah,
or
comments. Yeah, and
Doc.
like a Google Doc or whatever. Yeah.
Wait for that because you're like reading the paper, you select something, put in the comment, you just say what the comment is, enter, right? And you're done. It's like a so yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I'm just using like talking rather than typing overall, not just for coding, not just in the terminal, not just for Claude.
Cool. I got a hop, but this is super helpful.
Awesome. Thanks for staying.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thanks for the session, Ben. Really opened my eyes and like I have to get smart on this. So thanks again.
Awesome. I'm glad you found it useful.
Okay, I'm gonna jump off too.
All right. Thanks,
But
Rob. Thanks for your questions.
yeah,
You're great at asking questions. This is something I've thought multiple times. I'm like, we're at a seminar, at a lab meeting, at the breakfasts thing, like the whatever. I'm like, Rob always has a question, and it's always a good one. And I'm like, I wish I was like Rob.
that can't be statistically true.
So that's awesome.
But I have been thinking a lot about like it was just like we sleep a third of the day, right? So like how do we like that's a big question for me is like but right now a lot of the AI stuff is we need to monitor it. I need to prove like okay, can you use this command or
Yeah.
I need to course correct it. So I'm just wondering, like, is there a way to unlock a third of my day by having it work on something, right? Reiteratively or something. And I think that's a huge value increase in terms of productivity. But
Yeah.
I just don't know how, I don't have enough
Yeah.
expertise to be able to design that.
Yeah. So I've tried that. And I hate to say it, but most of the work I do with Claude is awake. But I
Yeah.
have done some work with Claude asleep. A lot of the Qualtrics API stuff was while I was sleeping.
Mm.
So like I really didn't have the time to like sit and code up this Qualtrics API thing. So once the core was done, I was like, Claude, can you just like figure out embedded data or whatever that's broken, like figure it out. And then the next day I pull the changes from GitHub, I verify that it works, done.
Mm.
So stuff like that. But like there's no reason why you couldn't really like do the whole pipeline uh, using Claude. Because if you
Yeah.
think about it, like uh, Prolific has an API, right? So you could literally tell Claude like, hey, here's the survey I want you to build it out. Uh, don't show it to me. Like this is a $20 pilot. Like I don't care. Just like run it. Use the Prolific API, post it, run it with 100 people, analyze the data, come back with some thoughts on what the data said and what should I run next. Like if it weren't because we have to use to get a discount from Wharton Behavioral Lab and we have to fill the job form, which by the way, I
Mm.
have a skill for, uh,
Okay.
then you could actually do something like that, right? And like you could just like tell it go wild and then come back the next day or at the end of your workday or whatever and see like how did that go? I haven't done it, but there's no reason why you couldn't sort of like tell it, I don't need to see the intermediate steps. do the whole thing from here's a survey I want you to do, here's why I want you to do it, go run data, analyze the data, tell me what you found. You could do that with a single prompt in principle. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Okay, well, thanks again for your time, Angela. Thanks for organizing, and
Welcome. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
this is insanely helpful. So thank you.
Awesome. I'm glad.
Great. Okay, perfect. Everybody.